Hey, good morning, crew. My name is Justin Watkins. I'm a firm believer in Christ and a recovering addict and alcoholic. I wanted to take some time and kind of share my story through my addiction and into my recovery. It's been a long, hard road, mostly long. I've been struggling with addiction since the age of 13. It puts me about 15 years, going on 16 years of active addiction. When I was 13 is really when it kicked off. Now, I grew up in a church family. My dad's a pastor. We had a great childhood. We were always in the church anytime the doors were open. And, I don't remember a whole lot of fighting or anything, negative in my childhood. And I was put in some of the best schools in the area and really given every opportunity to achieve anything I wanted to achieve. But I let drugs take over my life, and everything went downhill from there. When I was about 13, I started smoking weed on occasion, and I started dabbling in alcohol. I went to a private school, so it was, I imagine, like public school, except they had more expensive drugs, and nobody likes to do expensive drugs by themselves. So from the time I was 13 all through high school, I did a lot of drinking, a lot of pills, and a lot of cocaine. And after high school, I joined the military. I did that for quite some time. I was in the medical department and learned how and what to say to get pills, and took advantage of the great insurance that I had through the military, and stayed pretty stocked up on pills. But when you're only getting 90 pills, 120 pills, and you're taking those in a couple days or a week, you got to fill in the rest of the month with something else. So I started dabbling in a little heroin, mostly snorting everything. I loved putting things up my nose for some reason, like an idiot. I was still really active taking cocaine and as many pills as I could get my hands on. I was always a speedballer. I like to take uppers and downers. After my first deployment, I came back. I had been married. I had a young son. My marriage dissolved, and that kind of threw me for a loop. And I got real heavy into opiates. I started taking pills and heroin and balling that out with cocaine a lot. I really wanted to suppress my inner demons to a point where I couldn't even feel them at all, and it got to the point where I couldn't feel anything at all. And this is when my life really started to turn for the worst. I lost contact with, or I didn't lose contact, but they kind of had to push me away, my family, because of how ridiculous I was acting. I had no real sense of anything, really. My only emotion that I knew at that point, after taking drugs for so long, was anger, and I didn't know how to be happy. I didn't know how to tell the truth. I didn't know how to be an adult sober. So this went on for a couple of years. I went through 2 marriages. I pretty much ruined my military career. I ended up going on one more deployment to Iraq, and they put you in these situations to succeed, but the way I saw it, they were sending us to the opium capitals of the world, and stuff is really easy to get there. So it's pretty much high all the time. After I went to Iraq, I came back home and was battling depression really bad, trying to figure out why my life was so crappy at the time, which was all me and all my mistakes and the drugs making me insane. I had no friends. I had nobody to speak to. I was kind of in just a depressed, anxious state all the time, and I was trying to self-medicate. I became a horrible father. Even before I went to Iraq, I became a horrible son, a horrible friend. The drugs just took everything, all my personality away. It took all my good traits and replaced those with anger and fear. And during all this drug addiction, I really got away from God. I doubted that He was real. I used to argue with friends and people that believed in the Bible. I would use the knowledge that I had gained growing up in the church and going to Christian school and everything to argue the Bible. So I would use the Bible to argue against the Bible, which seems foolish, but that's, in my drunken high stupor, that's what I thought was right. I didn't know why God would abandon me or anybody I knew. You know, I had a friend that hung himself at the VA trying to get treatment, and that I couldn't understand why things like that happened. After I got home from Iraq, I went in a tailspin pretty quick. I don't know, in probably the last 10 years, I've probably been sober maybe a day or two at a time, and that was it. I never had any long stretches of sobriety. I didn't even care to be sober. But in November, I decided to go to rehab because I really just had nowhere else to go. So I went to a place here in, around Nashville. I stayed for 6 days and got high courtesy of my insurance for 6 days, and then left against medical advice. I made it 2 hours out of treatment before I was high again. So, and then from November of last year, 2017, until January 2018, I was probably going 3 or 4 times harder than I went before. I overdosed multiple times a month. In November, I got brought back with Narcan. December, I got brought back by EMTs, and January, I brought myself back from my overdose. And so in January, I decided it was either go to rehab and stick it out or die. And I really didn't care either way at that point. I had nothing to live for. I had my sons, but my brain was so twisted from the drugs that it really didn't matter to me. So I went to rehab January 17th, 2018. I did a 30-day stint there, and it was life-changing. I went in, I was still angry. I was more open to what they had to say and what they had to give me and what they could do for me and what I could do for myself, but I still had no higher power. I had no God. I ran from that completely. If I didn't make it out and died, I would have been okay with that too. The drugs had my brain so twisted, it didn't matter at that point. I thought the world would be a better place without me. But in rehab, I met a lot of great people, and one that sticks out to me more than anything, his name was Scott. And Scotty was a rough-looking character, you know, but we hit it off pretty quick. He had a lot of swastika tattoos and lightning bolts under his eye and teardrops, and you know, it's somebody that on the streets I'd probably think, man, that's a bad dude, I'm not gonna mess with him, you know. But we hit it off pretty well, and pretty much became inseparable. And I was talking to Scotty about religion one day, and I was still just bitter, just mad. And he said, man, you need to get some Jesus. Just take some time and get in the Bible. And if you see something that you can prove me wrong with, then let me know. He said, I'm going to be praying for you, man. I'm going to be praying for you. So I opened the Bible that night, and the first page that I opened to was the book I opened to was Mark, and it was chapter 2, verse 17. And it says, when Jesus heard this, he told them, healthy people don't need a doctor. Sick people do. I've come to call not those who think they are righteous, but those who know they are sinners. And once I read that, I couldn't put the Bible down, because I know I'm a sinner. There's no question about it. You can ask anybody that I know, and they would tell you the same thing. But so I started reading every night, and then started getting down on my knees and praying. And it was amazing. About a day or two later, I prayed for peace, and that I'd be able to recognize my emotions when they came back and be able to handle them. And at this point, I was still just beyond depressed, wanting to be dead. And I woke up 2 days following that, and I sat up, and I felt just weird and disoriented. And I sat up and looked around. I was like, what the heck is going on? And I had a smile on my face. I was happy. And I was happy to be at a rehab, you know, with my friends, Scotty, Josh, all of them, you know, Matt. And it threw me for a loop. I didn't know what happy was. And from that day forward, everybody kept telling me, man, I can really see a change in you. I can see, you're really trying. You've got a lot going for you. Like, your whole personality has changed. And people were telling me it's like we don't even know you. People that I had problems with at the center, some of the counselors that I had just treated like absolute crap. And I'm sorry if you ever see this. I've tried to tell you personally. I hope that we're good. Y'all always have a special place in my heart. But once I found what was missing, what I was trying to fill with drugs, that hole in my life was Jesus Christ. And once I found that, I knew that I was unstoppable, because I can do all things through Christ. And being sober has been just so much easier. My life has turned around in ways that I could never imagine. I'm back with my family. I've gotten to see my kids so much more, my sons. That's just a blessing. I'm back at with my parents. My mom has just been absolutely a pleasure. Me and her never got along before, and it's so good to hear her say, we got the old Justin back. And so I know if I can do it, anybody can do it. And if you ever need help or anything like that, I'm always here. You can go through my profile here and email me. I'll put my email in the comments, or in the bio below. If you ever want to reach out to me, have any questions about anything, just please do. It's one day at a time. It always is. AA, Celebrate Recovery, those are all great resources. But surround yourself with people that are going to help you do good things and really truly believe in who you are. And don't ever give up on that person that might be struggling, because the last sentence you ever tell them might be the one that makes their life completely change. So God's going to find you in some way, shape, or fashion that you never thought possible. So just be receptive to that, and your life will change immensely. And I'll be praying for everybody that's going through maybe a similar situation I do every day. And if you're in recovery and you want to reach out to me, please do. I'm always here. My phone's on. I get my emails 24 hours a day. And I'd love to speak to you about recovery. I can help you. You can help me. Whatever. But y'all have a blessed day. It's the day the Lord has made. It's beautiful. So I'm going to rejoice and be glad in it. So y'all have a wonderful day.